What is shaken, Internet? This is Salt's bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Gorefiend LFR guide. Gorefiend is the third and last boss in the Halls of Blood instance of the Hellfire Citadel raid. This guide will cover the trash up to the boss and the boss itself, focusing on tank mechanics, but giving a brief overview of the fight as well. For those of you in queue or already in the instance, a quick synopsis. Taunt Gorefiend when the other tank is eaten. When you're in the stomach, kill the spirit ad while interrupting their bellowing shout. Before 40 seconds is up in the stomach, move to the center to get out, then keep swapping tanks on spirit ad to lots of Fel Flame stacks, maybe 15 stacks or so. During phase 2, run around and touch the unstable souls heading towards Gory to make the phase last longer. You can use some cooldowns when interrupting the unstable souls, or when you get lots of stacks of Fel Flame when tanking spirit ads outside of Gore's stomach. Now for the trash. It feels like there is a lot of trash between these bosses. First, you'll fight two berserkers which will buff themselves with quadruple damage. When they buff themselves, use your active mitigation and cooldowns, but they'll die pretty quickly after they do. The Blood Letter Caster in the next pack should be constantly interrupted to stop lots of raid-wide damage from going out. Now, at the very bottom of the stairs, you'll have to fight the Gorebound Crone mini-boss. She'll create some soul fissures, and someone must stand in the fissures to avoid the whole raid taking lots of damage. Just make sure someone is there, and you'll be fine. Now, the more important adds for you during this mini-boss fight are the Brutes, which will drop Hellfire pools. You must move out of these pools quickly, as they stack a very bad DOT on you very quickly. Now, when they wind up to do the move, start running away immediately. Finally, you'll reach Gorefiend himself. Or is it herself? I can never tell with these demons. Gory is a two-phase fight, with the first being all about ads, and the second being all about tanks running around like crazy. Let's talk about the big mechanics first. In phase 1, Gorefiend will constantly eat raiders. Basically, they will die and be transported to his stomach. He'll never eat more than one tank at a time, so if you're not eaten, you should taunt the boss immediately. Now first, let's talk about being eaten. When Gorefiend eats you up, you'll have to deal with ads in his stomach. Your main focus in there is the Enraged Spirit. This ad has two moves to watch for. Fel Fury, which you might remember from the Brutes in the trash right before, as the very bad DOT stacking pool, and Bellowing Shout. Fel Fury will do lots of damage to anyone nearby, aka you. Move away or use a cooldown to take it like a bear. Now, Bellowing Shout is a self-buff that increases the spirit's damage by 300%. You can and should interrupt this every time. When the ad gets to about 70% health, it'll toss you aside and head to the exit in the center of Gorefiend's stomach. You should immediately follow it out. And that's pretty much all you need to know about what's going on inside the stomach. There will be some DPS and healers in there with you, but they'll be busy doing their own thing, so don't worry about them. So, when you get pulled into the stomach, here's a recap. First, tank the Enraged Spirit, step away from the Fel Fury bad pools, and interrupt Bellowing Shout. When he hits 70% health, chase him out of the stomach. The only other thing to note is that while you're in the stomach, you should try to avoid the little bad swirls, since you won't really have a dedicated healer and you should avoid all damage as possible. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the actual boss. In phase 1, one tank should be on the boss while the other is in the stomach. When the other spirit ad in the stomach gets to 70% health, he'll come out into the main room, hopefully followed shortly by that tank that was eaten. Now, once the spirit comes out, it'll turn into a gore-bound spirit, which will be a tankable ad that does two moves. First is the Bellowing Shout, just like the ad inside the stomach. Interrupt this or use a very big cooldown if it somehow goes through. The second is Fel Flames, which is a stacking debuff that will eventually kill you. If your stacks get too high, maybe around 15 stacks or so, the other tank should taunt the spirit until your stacks fall off. Now, one thing to note, the boss technically kills you, then eats you. And if you get killed by this mechanic twice in a row, you don't get eaten and just stay dead. This means that you shouldn't be tanking Gory after you were eaten until the other tank is eaten. So, when you come out of the stomach, grab the spirit and tank as long as you can. Then the other tank can take over while you clear your stacks. Hopefully, it'll just be dead by the time you need to taunt back anyway. Now, just remember to interrupt Bellowing Shout and you're all good on the ad. Now, before I move on to talk about the boss, let me just note, there will be lots more ads here, but none that are tankable. Some ads will be chasing down DPS and exploding on them, while others will be doing random damage to everyone in the raid. These will only appear if the DPS and healers in the stomach aren't doing their job. Since it's LFR, expect them to be AFK and that they're definitely going to fail. So, let's go ahead and take a look at Gorefiend himself. Gory has a few moves, but they're all very similar. He can basically mark players that blow up doing damage to nearby raiders, he can put bad swirls on the ground, or he can blow up doing everyone damage to people that are close to them. All of these are fairly standard, just don't stand close to anyone if you can avoid it, and don't stand in bad swirls. That's it. Now, when tanking Gorefiend, you actually don't have much to do besides not standing close to others. Your options are to stand still, jump up and down, or slash dance. Now, all have their pros and cons, so I'm going to go ahead and let you decide what to do. Now, after a few minutes, Gorefiend will switch to Phase 2 and begin channeling Feast of Souls. For a minute, he'll slowly gain energy. When his energy is full, he'll switch back to Phase 1. This is actually the easier phase, since he basically stops doing any moves at all and just takes a lot of bonus damage. During this phase, a lot of unstable souls will appear around the edge of the arena and move towards Gorefiend. If they reach him, he'll gain a bunch of energy, shortening the phase. We don't want that. Now, both the tanks should focus on killing the spirit adds if one is up from the first phase, then running around and standing in between Gory and these unstable souls. If a raider touches one, it will explode, dealing lots of damage to that raider and anybody close by. Using small cooldowns should be more than enough to handle eating these to your face. And your goal should be make sure that none of these souls ever hit Gory or the rest of your raid if possible. There's nothing else for you to do in this phase since Gorefiend doesn't need to be tanked and there are no adds to tank at all. Note that you can't actually target the unstable souls, they're not targetable adds, so you'll just have to intercept them. The raid will likely not be stacked up, so some will probably explode on raiders anyway, but try your best to protect people from themselves. These phases will repeat over and over again until Gory is dead. Let's do a quick recap. In Phase 1, tank Gorefiend and stay away from others or swirls. When you're eaten, pick up the Spirit Ad, interrupt Bellowing Shout, and move away from the Fell Fury pools. When it heads out of the stomach, keep interrupting that Bellowing Shout, and swap tanks if needed at high stacks of Fell Flames. During Phase 2, finish adds if you can, but more importantly, intercept the souls moving towards Gorefiend from the edge of the platform, using cooldowns if necessary. Overall, Gorefiend really shouldn't prove much of an issue for you. In other raiding modes, he'll do some additional moves that require more positioning on your raid, but this normally doesn't really affect the tank. I hope you have enjoyed this guide for dummies. If you'd like to see some more Hellfire Citadel guides, click on the annotation in the top left of the video now, or in the description below. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.
Gammon will save us. 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 Gammon save us. Gammon, given me untold power.